Good morning. Welcome back to Tales from the Lockbox, the Property.ca podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Josh Benoliel, VP of Sales here at Property.ca, Condos.ca, and Mr. Loft.ca. And today, our guest is the amazing Shay. Shay,
Hello.
what's going on?
How's it going?
How are you?
Good, good.
Thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you for
And we're
having
so
me.
excited to have you. Let's talk a little bit about Shay quickly.
Yes.
$14 million in sales volume of all time. Big number.
It's a big number.
100
What's that?
115 transactions.
Wow.
Can you name them all?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know your favorite one?
Yes.
We'll talk about it.
Yes.
And so far in 2023, Shay has accomplished an incredible 24 transactions so far this year.
Well, it's okay.
Doing good?
Yes.
There's always room to do better.
Yes. This year's been difficult.
For everyone.
For everyone. It's been the toughest year, yes.
And we're going to talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit. Shay, before we get into some of our stuff here, just give us, a little bit of background of who you are and what's going on.
So
Tell
it's
us.
interesting. I actually was born and raised in South Africa. Most people don't know
Wow.
that. Yes, grew up and raised in South Africa, 4 generations. And then I moved to Dubai. And I lived most of my teenage years in Dubai.
Wow.
And then I moved, my parents decided to move here. It was kind of between Canada or Australia. We moved to Canada and I stayed here for a couple of years. I went to med school. I did 3.5 years of med school.
Whoa.
In the States and the Caribbean. And then I wanted to find myself. So I moved back to Dubai, stayed there for a couple of years, and moved back to South Africa
Wow.
for a couple of years, and then came back here.
So you've gone back and forth.
Back and forth, yes.
And are you
yes.
happy here in Toronto?
I am. I think there's more opportunity here, definitely. Yes.
Because there's a lot of talk about Dubai right now, of how
Yes,
much opportunities
yes.
there and no taxes.
It's a great place to be. I think when I was there originally, there was nothing in Dubai. There was no buildings. It was just sand. Literally, there was like one building we had, and I think one mall. And then when I went back the second time, it was like a whole futuristic city. It was so different. Everyone was so different. I was like, it didn't feel like the same place.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
And they move fast.
They move so fast. Like I remember I was also a flight attendant when I was there. The second time I went back, I would be out of the country for like a week and I'd come back and I'd just see these skyscrapers like instantly. I'm like, this wasn't here when I was 5 days ago.
It's insane.
It's crazy how fast they build.
We need to get those construction teams here working on Eglinton.
Yes. Yeah, that would help.
We'd be a lot happier here in Toronto. And, I saw recently that the line project, I don't know if anyone's heard
Yes.
about the line. You know about
Yes,
the line?
of course.
I think they're saying that it's 174 kilometers long.
Yes.
And there's going to be 9 million people living in it. And I saw a video yesterday with like 200 cranes just digging holes.
It's crazy. But the thing is that one thing that Dubai struggles with is traffic.
Yeah.
So even like the Palm, there's like one way in and one way out. So I can't imagine with the line what that's going to do for traffic.
I don't think there's going to even be cars in there.
Yeah, I don't know. They said they were trying to get cars to go through.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's something
And then I also saw that there's like a tunnel underground
Yes.
train being built.
Train built,
That's
yeah.
going to go right from there to India, I think.
That's insane.
And then underneath where the train's going to go, it's going to have pipeline for oil to go from there to India, and then water to go like something crazy.
It's insane. They're always pushing the limits, and that's one thing that I can appreciate is when you go back there. Like the second time I went back, I mean the amount of success and the amount of people that they've gotten to come to Dubai, because it's like the central hub right now.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Wow.
And they keep pushing their limits. Let's go for the tallest building. Let's go, it's insane what they do.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, it
Maybe you'll
is.
end up
Yes.
back there one day. All right, so let's get into some fun stuff here. Shay, you're a very successful real estate agent here. You're doing really great things in a very short period of time. How long have you been a real estate agent for?
It's about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. So,
Yeah.
And I see you on Instagram. You're at the gym. You're doing all these things. Tell us a little bit about how you stay motivated every week, every day. What's your driving motivation? Like, what pushes you and helps you get through the tough times?
I think to be honest, it's my mother. She's a CFO, an MBA, so I know I have big shoes to fill. I also think that motivates me is, get up in the morning and going to the gym, like clearing your head, starting off your morning right. Everybody has to have a morning routine. I think that's what gets you in a good mindset. Everyone who's successful has a morning routine. I think you can agree with me.
Absolutely.
You have a morning routine yourself.
Absolutely, I
right?
do.
Whether it's journaling or, just sitting there in nature. That's what gets you to say, okay, I'm going to get up and drive. It's also pushing yourself. I think coming from Dubai and South Africa, where I've seen people struggle, my parents went through something called the apartheid, where I'm sure you're aware of that. I've seen them struggle, and I've seen them now be very successful. And that's what pushes me, right? Pushing your limits every single day.
And on that note, like, can you give us a little bit of in a very quick breakdown, like what's Shay's power morning routine look like?
Oh, so I wake up very early. I like to wake up typically 6:37. I then, you can laugh at me, but I use sage and Palo Santo and just to clear out the space, journal, and then I go to the gym. And then as soon as I'm coming back from the gym, that's when I start my calls. Like, because I think by 8:30 and 9, your clients are calling you.
Yeah.
So on the way back, that's when, you know, you're trying to get your stuff together. Shower, and I'm pretty much in the office 3 times a week.
Yep.
I find having a routine and being in the office really helps.
Of course.
And collaborating with others. That's one thing I've figured out. This year I've been doing that more than ever.
And you do a really great job of it.
Yeah.
You know, you're always in the office, you're meeting with people, you're working with them, you're
Right.
You know, real estate is sometimes an individual we feel like it's an individual sport, and I think that one of my big trainings with people is that, you know, sitting at home by yourself is only going to get you so far. Now, if you're someone like Sean who has an incredible system and it's working, it works for you. But especially if you're, you know, in that middle range of trying to get there, it's very important to be in an office environment where you have people around you, you have other agents around you, you're motivated by them, and it's just pushing you further. So great little piece there. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so here's a fun stat we're going to start off with. And now this came from Instagram, so it's not like 1,000% verified, but we do see a lot of this happening on Instagram right now, where you see like a video of a woman running, and then it says like 7% interest rates. And then as it drops down to 6, 4 more people start running behind her. And then by the time it gets down to 3% interest rates, it's a sprint, and she's just hauling forward. Have you seen that video?
Yes, I did.
So I saw this, and it obviously applies to the States because it's a big number there, but it said for every 1% drop in interest rates, 5 million buyers enter the market. And we do have Miriam, our mortgage broker, on the call, so she's going to give a little insight. But what does this tell you?
Well, that's 5 million for North America.
Let's just call it North America.
That's interesting. That's telling us as soon as
this is not verified.
Right. But as soon as the interest rates drop, you're going to have a huge buyer's pool, number one. I keep telling my clients right now, because they said, oh, interest rates are too high. But what I'm telling them right now is get into the market now. Take the bite of the interest rate, because it's short term, right? And then you don't want to be getting in the market with 5 million, let's say, buyers entering, because that's going to jump up the price. It's offer bidding. It's not something you want to be doing. You don't want to go into bidding wars. So that tells us that we're going to be really busy because it's going to drop. But also, I would try to get your investors and buyers in the market now if you can.
Absolutely.
Right? Do you agree with me?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, like we're able to put offers with large conditions in them right now for most things. And, you know, competition rates are down, especially it has been this summer. I don't know if that will stay the same as we get into the fall, but you really got to, you know, understand what's happening out there.
Yeah.
So,
this weekend I had put in for my investor, actually I had 2 of them offers, and I showed them about 5 units, and it was crazy. Listing agents were calling me, are you putting an offer? You know, we can negotiate, put in whatever condition you want. So it was kind of nice. It's flipped now the other way, right?
Yeah. On some things though, for sure.
Yes.
I mean, like I have listings that I've been in that side of the listing side of it, you know, trying to work the deal. I also this weekend was in a preemptive bully offer on a condo at 18 Yonge Street that within one day got a bully offer. We were the other bully, and they were listed at 600,000. We went in at 715, and the lady said, and we had no conditions, and she goes, "You're way off." And the last comparable was 685. So I think certain things in certain buildings definitely are still hitting really, really hard. But when you get into the investor side of things, bigger properties, closer to 2 million, upwards that way, you have a lot of negotiating room for the most part.
Yeah,
so
agree.
Definitely something to consider, that interest rates are temporary. And that, you know, you're in a different class if you can buy right now versus what happens when interest rates come down.
Yeah.
Miriam, what's your take on that? Like, I know I've heard from you and from other mortgage brokers out there that in the past 2 weeks, they have done a lot more pre-approvals than they've done all summer, which potentially is a sign that things are going to be busy in September, October. And one of the mortgage brokers I was just chatting with recently, they said to me, you know, my phone rings before yours does, so get ready.
It's true. I think about from your group, about 268 pre-approvals in set to go.
Whoa.
So within the group. Yeah. And those are stuff that have been active since June. A lot of these people are going into purchases with 4.6 4.8, which is, they're in like some crazy benefit stage right now, which is why we pushed them so early. Because going in right now, they would have been, they're still under 6 for insurables. We're still getting like 5.95s. But imagine if you're in the position right now with like a 5.95 rate, and you're going in when in the next 2 months we're going to see 6.5s. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you have this opportunity to go into a property where there's very little competition, but you're in a place where your rate's pretty good in comparison, right?
Your
So
cost basis
that's
is
the
better.
strength. Yeah, exactly.
Can people assign me those 4.8% mortgages?
I wish.
Those
I
pre-approvals?
keep saying, like, I guess I think it was one of your agents had one of their clients who purchased with RBC, but not with, but got like a slightly better rate than the 4.8 because they went in April. But I told her, hold on to this rate because you can use it for another property if you want to buy. And that's the reality, you know what I mean? I didn't want her to give it up. It was a really good thing. The other thing is we are going to see like increases in rates. People are going obviously shorter terms. So even though it's a bit higher, the net benefit will be hopefully better by a year, 2 years. Obviously, we don't have like a visual of what's going on, but for the most part, employment rates are growing, unemployment rates are growing. So that's where we know as soon as everyone agrees that we hit recession, the Bank of Canada is going to start dropping rates. So we're close to that, and then that's basically what we're waiting for. The CPIs, like you said last week in the meetings, were at 3.3 from like July, which was 2.8. So everything seemed, you know what I mean, in a worse position, but we'll see what happens. Eventually, we're going to see rates coming down. The fixed rate now is where people are looking to short term, 1 and 2 years. And we still have options of rates under 6%. So still, even though they're going up, there's still banks holding on to like under 6, So
Amazing.
if anybody really is interested in that would be great. That's like still options. Again, best thing to do, submit. And that's why the submissions are going in because we're pushing pre-approval and hold rates. You got nothing to lose. You do it, you hold it. If you buy, you buy. If you don't, you don't. Even for some of these clients that are like undecided, I always reach out, hey, could we renew the rate again? And
Right.
they do. You know what I mean? We're trying to get that going. So just want to see like those bond yields come down a little bit. That's what we're waiting for. So hopefully.
And I think,
see
Miriam,
what happens September 6th.
it's a big thank you because, for our agents and for our listeners, you were really ahead of it and you pushed us in May and June to lock in those rates and hold them, like you said, even if they weren't 100% ready. Miriam pushed us to hold it. And I know you said there was over 200 and I think you said 50 pre-approvals that you have right now. That's a very competitive edge for those agents. And I know that you're working with our agents, unlike a lot of other brokers where you're pushing the deals past the line, you're helping navigate the situation. And I think that's so beneficial to anybody to have a mortgage broker, like that, like you, in their back pocket, working as part of a team to get these deals done.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Miriam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any questions about mortgages in the group chat, Lucas? How are we doing there?
No questions.
Nothing there? Anyone? Now's your time to ask if you're in the group chat.
Yay, Shay.
Yay, Shay. Who is that?
Who is it?
Claire.
Claire. Yay, Claire. All right. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much. There's Miriam's contact information if you need it. She's also in the offices, I think, on Thursday, so you can get in touch with her there. All right. No problem. So let's get into some more stuff. Shay, you haven't gotten this far without some form of marketing. Obviously leads help and training helps and support helps, and we can talk about that stuff more. But, when you get into marketing, and everybody who comes onto the podcast has their perspective of that, from an agent perspective, what are you doing? What's your tip? What's one piece of advice that you would give to any agent listening out there from a marketing perspective of how they can get more success?
I think one is being authentic. You have to know how to be authentic. And I use social media. I actually use Instagram for pretty much all my marketing because that's the one place everyone can go to and know who Shay is and get really personal with you. So a lot of people say, I don't want to invest and spend time on social media. Instagram, it's a waste of time. I disagree. I think you should be posting as much as you can. Let people know, not only real estate, people need to know who you are as a person as well. You know that because you do that very well.
Thank you.
Actually, one of the classes I took was your class, and that I think one of the things you did say was get personal with your clients.
People want to know that they're relating to somebody real.
Right.
You know, it's not all post sold and listings. It's, you know, people want to know who you are, and they're more engaged with your personal content.
Yes. So and even with our calls, like when you call someone, I know majority of the time I call them, and then after 10 minutes they'll call me back and say, oh, I just went on your Instagram, you know, and then they'll start talking to you. So everybody's looking, everybody's Googling you, checking out who you are. So make sure your LinkedIn, your Instagram, Facebook is all up to date. That's so important,
of course.
Right?
And they're free marketing
and
tools.
It's free marketing, exactly.
Just check it out. So if that's Shay's tip there, I mean,
yeah,
go update,
absolutely.
go make sure all your
Especially
stuff's
LinkedIn.
updated.
There's so much leads on LinkedIn.
People
it's incredible.
I know, and they've actually recently, I talked about this in a meeting, they updated their platform to be able to post video and short form video on there, which is incredible. So, you know, when you're making a piece of content, it's important that you're getting it across all these channels. And one platform we use here in the office is Hootsuite. Hootsuite allows you to connect all of them, which is X you can connect, which is Twitter, is formerly now X. I don't know for who knows. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts. You can put all these things onto one platform using Hootsuite and then get them all out from there in a couple clicks.
Oh,
so check it out.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, you can post it'll go to all platforms. You connect everything in one central hub. Wow. Cool. Let's get into some real estate talk. How about that?
Yes.
All right, so clickety click. Actually, it's getting into real estate talk. Lucas, we got a video here. Shay, you've done some pre-con?
I've done one.
And you see what's going on in the market.
I
So
can see what's going
this was brought to us, a video. It was sent in by Sanjeev. And we want to look at here a little bit about this. It talks about the pre-con market. It's going to be a little bit scary for some people to watch, but I thought it's a very valuable piece of information to show everyone, to talk about. So Lucas, let's go ahead and play this video.
Scenes like this are the #1 way out of the housing crisis, but new construction in Canada has taken a big hit.
With a slowdown in housing starts right now, we're headed in the wrong direction.
The Canadian Housing and Mortgage Corporation announcing nearly 30,000 fewer homes started construction in July compared to the month before, a trend even worse in Canada's most expensive cities, with a 23% drop in Vancouver and a 29% decline in Toronto.
This lack of housing construction is going to cause both house prices and rents to go up. And we've seen rents across the country go up 20% or more year over year on new leases.
The culprit for constrained construction? A triple whammy of increased land prices, high development fees charged by governments, and a huge run-up in interest rates. Those factors also leading to 22% of builders to cancel projects that had already started.
These costs have just escalated in such a way that this project no longer shows the possibility of profit.
But the dip in new builds are a drop in the bucket compared to what's required to bring affordability back to the Canadian housing market. Something one of the top economists at CMHC says hasn't happened since the 1970s.
We need 3.5 million additional housing units by 2030, and very roughly that would mean doubling housing starts. Like we need drastically higher housing starts.
The Liberals haven't committed to meeting the CMHC's affordability goals, despite house prices increasing by 84% since Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister in 2015.
My focus right now is making sure that whatever your income may be, if you're working in this country, you have a place that you can afford to pay for. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Despite the slowdown in new construction in most Canadian cities, house prices are stagnating, and they're likely to go down, Farah, as higher interest rates work their way through the Canadian economy.
Thanks, Lucas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
That's scary.
What do you take from that?
That's really scary.
It's real,
yeah.
you know.
I always think, like, how are people, because rental prices, like, is so high, how are people going to be able to afford anything?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course.
Even if you're doing it as a couple or you're staying 2-3 people in the home, it's all your money's going to mortgages. That's it.
People need to get paid more.
And they don't get paid. That's another thing. They don't get paid as high as they should.
I know, and it was interesting. I actually was listening to something yesterday, was talking about some of the worst cities to invest in.
Yes.
And one of the ones that actually came up was Orlando. And why they said Orlando was such a bad city to invest in, which we don't have the same problem in Toronto, is it's a completely tourism and service-based industry. 95% of the jobs that occur in that area are based in the service, whether it's restaurants, food serving, working at Disneyland. And now you're seeing Disneyland numbers. We talked about this last year. The tourism rates are down by 50% at Disneyland this year.
Wow.
Line times, we talked about, so line times at Disneyland for the past couple of years have been 40 minutes. That's their average time.
Right.
They dropped down to 21 minutes wait time for lines, which is a weird indicator to talk about. And then they go back to that Orlando. So what happens is that they're in a peak right now of prices, but the unemployment rates are very low. The second unemployment rates start to rise, drastic drop in prices. So that's a different end of the spectrum. At least here in Toronto, we do have very high paying jobs. There's a lot of them. There's more of them happening all the time. So I think it's a balancing act between the two. But little interesting part there to see, 22% of Canadian builders have canceled projects.
That's crazy.
So when you're looking at pre-con stuff, for anyone listening to this, it's very important that you're doing your homework and working with people who have a strong reputation. A lot of these big builders won't cancel their projects. They'll just take it off the cuff and they'll keep moving forward to keep their reputation strong, as they'll eat their costs. Whereas some of these smaller guys who are getting into it right now, they'll cancel because it's just not worth them, losing their shirt on.
That's very interesting. Would you recommend people to get into pre-construction right now?
You would need to have a very specific reason why. I think that if you can't qualify for a mortgage today, you don't have enough money today, but you can forecast it, you see it coming out there, I think it's definitely something to consider in the long term. If you have kids that are going to be needing to move out in a couple of years and it suits your investment style in your portfolio, definitely it makes sense for a certain group of people. But I don't think it is what it was. I think if you're looking to get into pre-construction to make this big bang, it's not going to happen. I think that, pre-construction is now moving into, it's being built for people who need to live, not for people to make a ton of money on. And everyone wants to just make money in real estate. And at least now there's opportunities in the resale market. Speaking of which, let's look at our trend here in the freehold stats of Toronto. So I don't know how often you watch our meetings. I'm assuming regularly. So now we're looking at a 6-week overview. The green line is actually showing what housing prices have done in the past couple weeks. So looking over the summer, we saw a drop where it went down to week 31, and now we went to a high last week, right? And now coming after a long weekend, which came into a high peak, and now noticing last week, we're dropping a little bit more again, back to, kind of where we were at the end of July. So watching that happening there. We don't have that number there, but you can kind of see that trajectory. So we're kind of balancing up and down. Next week's meeting, for those of you who are watching who like long-term stats, we're actually going to be looking at the first 2 quarters of the year. So we're going to see a nice projection of what that looks like from there. Watching the available for sale data, you see this kind of what for sale and what sold. So noticing here, actually a lot of the inventory was sold that was on the market, which came back in the freehold market week over week. We're coming back from the end of July, where you started in June, you had a ton of inventory. Now we're starting to see the sold starting to rise up past inventory. People are buying again. In the condo market, we are still on a downward trend from where we were mid-July. So month over month, look at that drastic drop. We were about 750,000, 760 on average in the condo market, whereas now we're seeing that average condo price coming sub $600,000 for the first time since in a couple months. So noticing a peak that happened, right? What do you think about this kind of statistic that we're going through here? Let's look at the inventory levels. Again, sold data is popping back up. So at the same time that we have sold data, like prices are coming down, but sales are starting to happen.
Yeah.
So there's that balancing act kind of, we're starting to see that now that prices are coming down, people are starting to buy more and inventory is starting to clear up, which could twitch quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the condo market too. It changes, like freehold, it's more, you see more of a graph, whereas condos can switch instantly because you have so many investors and things coming in, right?
Absolutely, and it's interesting for us to see because we look at it a week over week data where a lot of people don't see that. So that's kind of a nutshell of what's happening there. I mean, interesting to say, I would tell a lot of people right now, if you're listening, my advice, and I'd like to hear yours as well, mine would be right now, if you have somebody who's thinking about buying in the next little bit, I would really try to hunker them down and get them out to see some properties in the next 2 weeks. People are still traveling. People are still in summer vacation mode. I think as we get to that September 6th date that Miriam talked about, once that change happens, it could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower. I feel like they might go slightly lower for a little bit. I think they're going to toggle around there. Regardless, you're going to see an influx of people back into the city, which is going to cause demand to go up somewhat. So my advice is to get people back out there. What's your take on that?
I agree with you 100%. I've been telling all my buyers, now is the time to buy. And you've got so much room to negotiate. A lot of people that are selling, believe it or not, they need to sell.
Right.
Right? I've been finding that they're getting rid of their property, or they're moving elsewhere. They just can't do with all the interest rates going on. So now is the time to buy. If you wait after September, when everybody starts coming back, you're going to have bidding wars again. It's going to raise the price.
Yeah.
And it happens so quickly. It happens like in a week.
I know.
Right? So it's a very quick process.
And I think that's very important as to why we analyze the week over week data here, because what you're seeing is we can notice these trends starting to happen, right? We're seeing prices come down. Someone might not be watching, most agents are not watching this on a week over week. They might be looking at the TREB stats for the month, year over year. But when we get into the weeds, we're seeing, guys, there's an opportunity right now in the condo market. Prices are down below the lowest they've been in a month. So get out there right now. At the same time, we're starting to see the sales start to ramp back up. So we're at a point where we're watching, prices are down, sales are starting to happen. Get in that window, because what's going to start to happen as sales start to go up, prices are going to start to come up. Then it will keep following that peak and valley, as we like to call it in the Toronto real estate market.
I would honestly show this. Like, I always carry something on my phone, because you can tell your clients this, and sometimes they think you're just trying to sell them. I like to carry like some sort of graph or something, say, look at here's the stats, see what's happening. And they'll trust you more and appreciate it more.
And that's why we do this meeting, guys. We want to give you those elevator stats. We want to give you that pitch that you can talk about. So take a minute, maybe screenshot this stuff while you're watching it when we bring it up, because that's a very good point, Shay. You take this and bring it out to your people. It's a very valuable thing. And I'm going to talk to our team here. Maybe what we'll do is we'll start putting this on a weekly basis after these meetings into the Facebook group, so we can go from there. And if you're a podcast listener and you're not one of our agents within our company, we're going to get this information out to you guys too, so you can benefit from that as well, because we want our listeners to benefit from listening to this. It's not just hearing value. We want you to walk away with some stuff here. So let's get into that. That's a kind of summary on the condo market. Let's talk about some good stuff, Shay. Tell us why you became a real estate agent, because you went to med school and
I did one of the agents actually said I had 9 lives, because I did so many things. I did a little bit of cryptocurrency in South Africa, and then I moved here, and I didn't know what I was going to do. At the time, I was in Bitcoin, and it sort of just took a tank. And I used to my salary was in Bitcoin. So you can imagine, I woke up and I looked at my savings, and everything was pretty much gone. And I thought, oh gosh, I have to go back home. So I moved to Canada, and I had a really good friend of mine that was an agent, and I saw the rewards. He was hustling and working, but he said he was able to make a lot of money. I'm not going to lie, I did it for the money. So I started the course, and while I was doing the course, I became a receptionist at another brokerage. And I started just I love how, one, you don't have to work for a boss. You get to make your own hours. And I literally say you work when you need to work, right? And there was no like, okay, this is how much salary I'm going to make. Sky's the limit. We can make as much as surgeons. Do you understand that? Like, going to med school, I'll tell you, it's a lot of work. And then knowing that I can make just as much money as a cardiologist or a neurologist, that says a lot. And not only that, like, because I was an immigrant, I think coming here, and I had to see how my parents first they rented, then they bought the house. We had horrible real estate agents, I'm not going to lie. And I just wanted to give back. I think that's one of the reasons why when I was in the business, I was like, I want to give back to other immigrants and show them how they can, make money and come here as an immigrant, rent, and then buy a bigger house, and then a bigger house, and just see the value in that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I did it.
It's so inspiring.
Yeah. So
it's so inspiring.
So a lot of my clients are immigrants, and I try to always push them to like get into investment. And I get calls now, and they're like, "Thank you so much. Like, thank you so much for pushing me, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise." And now they can sort of see where, okay, not now, but they kind of see where they wouldn't have gone to the market otherwise.
It's amazing.
Right?
Well, you're good at your job.
Yeah, trying to.
You're good at your job. And I guess that would probably answer our second question is what you like about being a real estate agent. I guess that's kind of
exactly it. Yes,
You're
helping
people.
others, and you have to love what you do, right?
So your choice was helping others by saving their lives and stopping them from having a heart attack or a stroke, or buying a piece of real estate in Toronto. Good, fun. And we know which one you chose, obviously. Let's talk about what has been your key to your success, and I think that kind of falls into what you're saying. But if you had to sum it up a little bit, what has been that secret sauce? Where is it?
I think just getting personal with your clients. That's one thing. Like living in so many places and traveling, I'm always able to connect with them. When I first started, I used to be very, very professional. And not to say that's a bad thing, but I was very cold. And then I realized, you know what, you need to be more friends with them. Go with them for dinner, go take them to a game. And what I find now that they trust me, they won't go anywhere else. Like they'll call me. I still have people call me from a year ago when I helped them with a rental and saying, oh my God, I want to buy something, help me out. So that's the keys. You have to connect with people and relate. That's very important.
And I think it goes past to sales too, right? You probably actually are genuinely friends with some of those people now, right?
Absolutely. And it started when I was a flight attendant. We used to have a section. I used to make friends with everybody in the aisle. And at the end, I was getting their Instagrams. Until today, they still message me. But you really have to relate to people because there's so many agents. What makes you different? That's kind of what you have to work on and really become the master of it. What makes you different from all the other agents? And everybody has something that makes them different. We're not all the same, right? It's finding that one thing.
Absolutely. And that leads into my next question here is like, what's that piece of advice? So if it's make yourself different, how can a new agent out there, how can they get into that mindset? What's some things that they can do to make themselves stand out from that crowd?
I think, again, that comes with authenticity and being yourself. Also, like people can tell when you're not authentic. They know right away. So be authentic, be yourself, don't be shy. Like I always tell people, go dress, be professional, of course, but show your personal style as well. People appreciate that, right? And the podcast that I did before with one of the ladies, we talked about that, how important it is to show your personal style and show them who you are as a person.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things is, and I still do it to this day, I'm not showing as many properties as I was, but I used to take people to a new neighborhood where they were going to move into, and it was kind of like an experience. We'd go out, we'd see a house or two, but then I'd say, have you had pizza from this place?
Wow.
We'd stop and have pizza there. Like, I can't tell you how many clients I've taken out for food during showings where they weren't even thinking about that, and I buffer in a half an hour in between because I did my research on the area, whether I knew it or not, and we're dialing into that space to make sure that when you're going to see a house in a neighborhood that you've never been to, I want you to have a real understanding of what that neighborhood is. What's going on here? Where are you going to live here? Where are you going to eat? What's it going to be like actually living here? It's so important for me when I'm doing things like that, like from when I'm buying real estate. So I like to make sure that that happens for my clients when I'm taking them out. Now I'm dealing with a lot of investors, so I don't get to have as much fun as I used to sometimes, and I still get those, but when I do take somebody out, I want to make sure that's happening.
That's a key tip. That's good. And knowing your client too, knowing exactly if they like to, let's say, go to a specific gym, take them and show them this is a boutique gym that they have. Getting to know your client. That's very important.
Yeah, and listening, right?
And listening, yeah.
Okay, so Shay, as we wrap up here, this has been very insightful. We've learned a lot. We call this podcast now the Tales of the Lockbox. So from your 2.5 years in real estate, you've done 115 transactions, 24 this year. Give us the tale of the lockbox. What stands out the most? What has been that one story that it's funny, it's scary, it's out there? What's that one thing that sticks out? Because everyone's got one. So give us your tale.
Oh, that's a tough one. Actually, it's not nothing funny, but I got my client, he actually bought a home in Caledon. It was about 2.8 million, and it was 4 acres. We didn't know, we got the zoning, but we didn't know that he owned, his house was built and in the acres was forest, and he had a stream that comes by, freshwater stream. So I actually went over a couple of weeks ago, and he's telling me that the salmon jumps, you can see them spawn, and he owns part of all the way up past the stream.
Wow.
He had about 5 builders knocking at his door the last couple of weeks, offering 40 million just to buy that entire land so they can build on it. And he said, I'm going to wait till it gets to about 80 or 90, and then I'm going to sell it. And thank you, Shay. And I was like, it's incredible that I know. It's incredible that I was
He owes you some big money.
He owes me a lot of money, yes. Yeah. And he's just holding on to it right now. But if you see the land, you'll understand why.
Yeah,
Isn't that incredible?
Land. Everyone wants to know where the land is.
I can't tell you right now.
We all need to know where the land is. Like, let's go today.
But yeah,
Miriam's going to get us 4.8% mortgages.
Right? Isn't that insane? So that's one of the stories and I got him this place last year.
So you...
And he's got letters of builders offering him 40 million. I've seen the letters, and I'm like...
That's, wow.
Yeah, so that's one of my crazy stories.
Shay knows how to do her job, right, ladies and gentlemen. Shay, thank you so much for being here. Keep doing amazing. Keep making people $40 million one after another. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Let's have fun out there. Everyone who's listening, have a great week. Get out there. Stand out from the crowd. Do something different. Be yourself. Be honest with your clients. Be real with them. Have a good time. And find value in properties like Shay did here, guys. All the best. This is Tales from the Lockbox. Thank you. Have a good week.